Good morning. This is Dr. Lalita Kaul. Welcome to our new program, Adolescence. And today I have Dr. Sambhu Banik, a very well-known clinical psychologist. He's an adjunct professor at Bowie University, and he was also during Reagan administration on the Committee for Adolescents, Mental Health, and Opioids. And he's also in community very active. So let me introduce Dr. Sambhu Banik. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Dr. Banik, what is the difference between adolescence? What is adolescence?
Well, adolescence is one of the most difficult as well as fascinating period of human development. This is the time when child matures to become an adult. The physiological changes that take place because of three important hormones, hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal gland, they create tsunami-like waves to this emerging individual who is neither a child nor an adult, in between. It creates both physiological, sexual, psychological, emotional, as well as other aspects of human changes.
Thank you, Dr. Banik, explaining to this. I didn't know these glands play a role in adolescence, as you said. So in other words, adolescence is in between your adult life and old age and a very difficult stage. So what is the difference between adolescence and puberty?
Well, puberty is a physiological term when, as I mentioned before, that the glands, the hormones act on this emerging child who is 8, 9 or 10-year-old and becomes extremely volatile to the changes that is taking place by the hormonal secretions. As I mentioned to you, the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal, that creates a tsunami-like waves in the body, having imagination, sensation, perception, sexual desires, as well as experimentation with something which is not legal, or to act and behave in a manner which are not supported by the adult society.
Well, very well said, yeah, because adolescents, they are not still at that stage where they are legal. In fact, they are under parental or other, guardian. They don't have legal say, but nowadays they have such a thing as legal separation. When children cannot get along with their parents, they seek legal and then it is worked. So you're in between. We have gone through this in our lives. Of course, at that time, we couldn't even think of the legal separation. So what are some of the characteristic features of adolescence? Any difference between boys and girls?
I'm so glad you asked that question. There are a lot of differences between boys and girls. Generally, girls mature faster than the boys. Girls develop breast development, hip get wider, they become taller, and they develop tremendous interest in self-concept, how they look like. They want to get attracted to the opposite sex, the boys. Boys, on the other hand, they develop physical development like pubic hair, and there also lots of growth in them, but they, according to all the studies, they become so sexually active. They wanted to have some kind of romantic relationship with the opposite sex. Other difference between boys and girls is that boys, they want to attract the opposite sex, that means girls. Girls, on the other hand, try to become much more beautiful, much more prettier by experimenting with all kinds of makeups, hairstyles, etc., so that they can be attracted to the boys.
Well, that's a very interesting observation. Of course, you are the expert in this. I can 100 years ago remember my adolescence, how much headache I gave to my parents. And my father being in the foreign service, every time I go to a different school, those days there were no cell phone, and some boy is calling and my father is saying, who were the boys calling? I said, oh my God. But I didn't have a choice then. What do? You're living with your parents.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Banik, what are some of the positive and negative features of adolescence?
Well, let me start with the positive features. Because as I mentioned, because of the endocrine secretion, because of physical development, social, intellectual development, they become much more active in the society. They want to belong and they want to defy the authority of the parents. So what they do, they join the group called peer pressure, peer group. And many times, many adolescents also join the gang to get strength, to get power, to dominate others. The positive aspects is that because of the physical strength, many of them go to sports. They go to running, skiing, skating, many activities, baseball, football, etc. As well as they also become creative because their imagination runs very high. This is the stage where many people start writing stories, poetries, as well as painting. So why it is? Many of them feel by doing that, they will be able to attract the other people, mostly the opposite sex. So it has got both positive and negative. Another aspect of negative part of adolescence is that they become extremely self-centered. They want to enjoy their lives without caring for their parents or any other siblings, etc. So they experiment with alcohol, drugs, marijuana, as well as when they start driving, they drive too fast to show off to their girlfriends, to the other people, that how smart they are. In the process, they get into severe accidents, death, as well as mental health aspect, the negative aspects, sadness, loneliness. If they are not well developed, they become lonely. And depression, suicide. These are many of the negative aspects of adolescence. So we, as the society, need to be cognizant of the fact that this is because of the changing taking place in such a rapid manner in a child who is no emotionally mature. He cannot take care, he cannot handle this emerging situation in him. So he falls prey to all these activities. That's the negative aspects of that.
So thank you for explaining. In fact, I'm myself learning from what you're saying, remembering my own adolescent periods. Now when I saw my daughter driving, I said, oh my God, this is another Lalita here. Oh, I was so moody. I didn't want to talk. I want to go to my room. I had some boyfriends around the globe. I was writing letters. And, my father was keeping clothes like a clothes watch. Where do you get the money for stuff? Oh, I said, so then you grow old, then you have other things. And then I saw my daughter. I said, some people have very bad time handling the adolescent. Mm-hmm. And I have read, correct me if I'm wrong, the suicide rate is very high among adolescent. So many celebrities, to name one, Anderson Cooper, who is on CNN, his brother just jumped from the window. So we don't know whether he was on drugs or whatever. And he's to this day talking about. So tell me, Dr. Banik, why adolescent or teenage behaves so differently?
Because, as I mentioned to you, because sudden change that takes place, like a river, during the non-rainy season, it remains dry. With the advent of the rains, it becomes swollen. It tries to overtake the lands and flood the places. So we need some outlets, like we create dam to contain the flood as well as the currents of adolescence. It created tremendous currents because of the physiological endocrinal changes that are taking place in this emerging individual, whether he's neither a child nor an adult in between. He wants to become an adult because he can reproduce of his own.
Oh, Dr. Banik, I know you said all these things happen during adolescence. What about physiological? Do you think there are hormonal changes, like girls starting there? Some are starting earlier and earlier, I was told.
Yes.
And the boys start thinking their beard and their, shaving. So is this some hormonal changes? What do you say to that?
It is absolutely right, hormonal changes. Now, just imagine a child who is only 7, 8 or 9 year old, suddenly, because of physiological changes take place, he feels like an adult. He feels all the sexual urges, his imagination, his perception, everything changes overnight. So, but he can reproduce. Even at the age of 9 or 10 year old, when they started menstruating, a child can be, a teenager or adolescent can become pregnant. So there are lots of ifs and buts nowadays, and also they feel alienated because parents do not want to recognize them as an adult, as a maturing individual who can reproduce of his own. So what they do? They go to internet, now chat room, all the pornography, books, all kinds of things. They try to find out more about what is all about.
Yes, you said it rightly. The internet is like, when I was growing, there was no internet. So we used to be a bunch of girls getting together and chit-chatting or talking on the phone 1 hour. So my father will come and says, "What? The phone was busy. What were you doing here? Why can't you stop chit-chatting?" And now I get a headache now if I talk more than 5 years. It is fantastic, all the physiological. Thank you so much giving us the insight into the adolescence. And thank you all for watching this program, Adolescence, on Fox 5 Plus. See you next month. Goodbye.